Hello there, I am Gifty Andopia with your election brief for today. Coming up, National Association of Law Students backs opposition NDC's plan to reform legal education as it describes government's pledge to expand infrastructure as misleading, retrogressive and very weak. We have one of the conveners of the association, Philemon La, who will join us via Zoom for that particular discussion. Also coming up, NDC's running mate Professor Nana Opoku-Agyeman condemns the concept of providing students with past questions to improve their performance. Meanwhile, Vice President of Imani Africa, Kofi Bentil, says implementation of the free SHS policy is collapsing Ghana's economy. Also coming up here on the show, a group of assembly members in the Ashanti region say payment of allowances to assembly members will deal with corruption in the local governance system.
DCs and the technocrats take advantage of the situation and they do whatever they want to do, because when you go for meetings, you know that it is the DC who's going to give you allowance.
More of that's coming up here on Election Brief. We are live on DSTV 421, Gold TV 144. We're streaming live on YouTube. We're on Facebook, of course. You can find us at myjoyonline.com. My name is Gifty Andopia. I'm back shortly with the details. Our first story, a group of assembly members in the Ashanti region say payment of allowances to assembly members will deal with the corruption in the local government system. Flag bearer for the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, launching his manifesto dubbed the People's Manifesto, promised his government, when voted or if voted, will cut the number of ministers to pay allowances to assembly members. According to some assembly members, most of them have aligned themselves to district chief executives and technocrats, paving way for their staff of the assembly to milk their assemblies since they reneged on their supervisory roles. Assembly member for Asempa Naye electoral area, Emmanuel Kobitumfo, addressing the media in Kumasi, says dealing with corruption in the local government system is a giant step towards national development.
Ladies and gentlemen, payment of allowances, let me emphasize, monthly payment of allowances to the assembly members will provide us with the needed financial support to discharge our functions satisfactorily. The allowances, to some extent, could eschew some of us as an assembly members from seeking petty office or falling for petty favors from the executives of the assemblies, and thereby compromising our authority to demand accountability. Because we are not paid, because we don't receive any financial support from the central government, the DCs and the technocrats take advantage of the situation and they do whatever they want to do. Because when you go for meetings, you know that it is the DC who's going to give you allowance. But if the government decides to pay us allowances, we will know that we are autonomous. We are there for the people and we work for the people. Ladies and gentlemen from the press, I will serve as, the allowance will serve as a recognition of our effort, which will motivate and energize us to work harder to deepen our decentralization system. We therefore welcome the policy. We wholeheartedly welcome the policy from the NDC yet government to continue in their manifesto with joy and enthusiasm and pray fervently for its realization.
So the Constitutional Review Committee in 2010 proposed a regular salary for assembly members, but then the NDC government at the time refused to grant approval. The NDC in 2012 manifesto, in which the party had indicated its government would pay assembly members, never actually materialized after they gained victory. Mr. Kobitumfo explains why he continues to trust the flag bearer of the NDC to redeem this promise if elected.
To pay allowances in 2012, but he couldn't. And I am saying that Mahama had priorities. Economists would say scale of preference. So he considered his priorities. And let me say that for me, in my district, Afuano Southeast, we were not having free SHS. We were not having SHS in the district. But through the initiative of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, E-Block is there. So I believe that he looked at that angle before. He saw that if assembly members are empowered, they cannot build the E-Block. So he has to build the E-Block first, build the infrastructures first, so that the allowances given to assembly members will not be burdened.
The assembly members there making a point. Now, the National Association of Law Students has launched a scathing attack on the governing NPP's proposed policy on reforming legal education. The group says government's plan of expanding infrastructure is, quote, weak, misleading and awkward, of quote. It explains that expanding infrastructure will not address the immediate challenges that are facing students. Law students have in the last 4 years demanded that legal education is made accessible to all. Now, thousands of persons holding law degrees have not been able to gain admission into the Ghana School of Law, the only accredited institution running the professional law program. The NPP and NDC in their manifestos propose solutions, but the students are backing the NDC's ideas. My colleague Joseph Akable has more. Well, he joins me with more on the phone. Joseph, Joseph, do tell us a bit more about the concerns that the conveners have.
And so first, they make reference to the promises that have been made by both parties. The MPP in its manifesto promises that they will expand the infrastructure to increase access to the professional program. In terms of the NDC, they make a number of suggestions. The first being that they are going to accredit at the universities some selected faculties to run the program. They are also going to set up a council that will be responsible for accrediting these institutions. And so those are the two main promises that they make in that regard. And the association holds a view that, that reflects the current situation more, because they say that the NDC, the MPP's pledge of providing the infrastructure is something that cannot be done within 12 months. They again make the point that they've had a series of engagements with the governing MPP, and so far, a government has not been forthcoming in terms of addressing their concerns. In fact, they make the point that if they were mindful and committed to legal education, they should have dealt with the issue of remarking fees that has been a subject of concern to the students over the period. And so they hold a view that the NDC's ideas present some hope for them, and it shows care, even though they are quick to add that they intend to hold them to account because they are politicians, and if they will find a fail to deal with this too, they intend to hold them to account.
Interesting, Joseph. Well, thank you very much for that update. I also have one of the conveners. Joseph, you hang on for me. I have one of the conveners of the National Association of Law Students, Philemon La, like I said, for this conversation. Hi, Philemon. Hi, Philemon. Do you hear me?
Hi, good afternoon. I can hear you.
Fantastic. I think you were muted earlier. Now, why do you have issues with one promise and not the other? They both offer some hope, don't they?
All right. Fundamentally, you'd recall that sometime last year, law students in their thousands went on a demonstration just to present a petition to those in power. We're met with the brute force of the Ghana Police Service. We're beaten. We did not succeed in presenting our petition to our own house, the Flagstaff House. So efforts have been made by law students in this country to reach out to those who can effect change in legal education reforms in this country. And for the 3 years that we have engaged robustly, we have not been able to achieve anything. So it's welcoming news to hear that there's something in place to ensure that there will be reforms in legal education. But fundamentally, this does not mean that the MPP or this government cannot do anything. We are open. For us as law students in this country, we are open to the option that gives us immediate reforms now. And this government, this party, this president has the option to institute measures now, even before the election. We are open to whichever party that would give us reforms in legal education. So we are open to something that leads to a radical, imminent solution to the problems we face.
And you find that radical approach in the NDC's proposal how?
Yeah, the radical, it's not radical because the MPP's option is not radical because they talk about infrastructure. And that's quite misplaced because the problems we face now are not even fundamental about infrastructure. It's about reform. So hearing that a system would be in place to allow for various faculties to train law students is welcoming. Fundamentally, that is, it's talking about UDS or a school up north. This is another very important thing because it allows for access for people up north to be able to have legal education. Hitherto, you'd have to travel all the way from the north just to come have legal education in Accra. So fundamentally, the point is that access is what we want. And the party that allows for access is what the law students of this country would support.
Okay, I think I lost you a bit. Hang on. Help me understand. Did you say that the NPP's plan is not radical, but it's good because it gives access? Because that's something you're not very enthused about. Help me if I'm wrong.
No. What we are saying is that the NPP option is just infrastructure as presented by the manifesto of the NPP.
Right.
They say they will increase a radical infrastructure means to be able to accommodate. But we are saying that infrastructure is a long-term measure. We are looking for something that is short-term. In the worst case, in the medium term, and that short-term, medium-term option is what the NDC provides. And the National Association of Law Students is open to the option that allows for radical transformation reforms in the legal education architecture in this country.
Should that make me believe that should the NPP, for example, add something to what they're proposing that you feel is radical enough, much more than the NDC's proposal, that you'll switch sides?
What we want is reforms in legal education. We do not care the color of the cat so far as it can catch mice. That's our position.
Well, what do you say to those who say you are just being political and that you are actually an NDC person?
This cannot be a political objective because, well, let me be cautious in mentioning it, but we have several other leaders within the National Association of Law Students who belong to different partisan persuasions. We do not care what political color is in place. What we care about is reforms in legal education. And whichever party it is that provides that is what we stand by. It is not about an NDC leader of the National Association of Law Students or an NPP leader, because we are made up of people from different political colors in this country. It is immaterial, our political persuasion. What is material, what is imminent, what is patriotic at this point is reforms in legal education. Nothing about or nothing beyond reforms in legal education. So just to be clear, you are not an NDC person? That is immaterial. My partisan position is immaterial at this point. Fair enough. What is material is that we want reforms in legal education. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll go back to Joseph. Hang on for me, Mr. La. I'll come back to you. Joseph, we know that CDD Fellow in Law and Justice, Professor Stephen Asare, has also been at the forefront of this fight. What does he make of the two proposals?
In fact, he backs the NDC's view as well, and he writes that on the issue of making legal education accessible, it is fair to say the NDC has done more listening than the NPP and has offered a far superior solution to the problem. He goes on to say that it must be the universities that should be running such a program and not any centralized institution like the Ghana School of Law. Okay, so just to be clear, Mr. Professor Stephen Asare himself, does he have any stake in law education in this country? Not directly, but he's been at the forefront. He's taking matters to the courts. He's been seeking reforms for at least 3 or 4 years now, and asking that he holds the view that the only way to radically change things is to ensure that the GLC's dominance and control of legal education is taken from it, because it has judges who some of whom end up educating on matters that come eventually before the court. So he wants it to be taken from them in the first place. He again wants the faculties of law to be allowed to run the programs as well, and so you don't have to necessarily all be heading to a single school to offer the professional course, as he says is done with other programs like the accounting and the others. And so that is what he wants, so that they can have a centralized body that administers the exam, not one that runs the tuition itself. Just to give our viewers the benefit of that background, Joseph, thank you very much. Mr. La, I'll wrap up with you. What are the next steps for the association now that, of course, the election campaigns are, we're in the heat of the election campaigns, and we're just about 80-something days to the elections? Mr. La, do you hear me? It looks like I've lost him. Oh, you hear me, do you? Yes, I hear you, except I didn't hear the question you asked. Okay, I was just wrapping up. Yes, I'm wrapping up with you, and I was asking, what next steps are there for the association as we're, already in the heat of political campaigns and election is just a few 80 days away? The association is open to reforms in legal education. The association is happy about the NDC alternative. The association is willing and ready to partner with this government if they will immediately
course reforms in legal education. Students in the Ghana School of Law have to pay as much as 1,500 cedis just to have their paper remarked in case they feel that it's been unfairly marked. That should end. Post-course students would go to train in other Commonwealth jurisdictions and come to Ghana and pay as much as £6,000 just to have legal education. That should end. These are options. These are problems that the government can, as a matter of policy, be able to effect. And we are guided by the fact that under Section 1, Subsection 5 of the Legal Professions Act, the Attorney General has powers to give general policy directions to the General Legal Council, and the General Legal Council shall comply. The Attorney General is an appointee of this government, of this president, and we hope that by the direction of the Attorney General, the General Legal Council will begin to consider some of these problems that students are facing. Any option that gives us radical, immediate solutions to reforms in legal education is what we champion for. We are not a partisan organization. We care only about the interests of our students. Ms.
Allah, I appreciate your time with us this afternoon. Thank you so much for making that time. Philemon La is the National Association of Law Students president. Let's get on with the politics. The president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has called for the support and collaboration of chiefs to safeguard the peace and stability of this country, especially during the 2020 general elections. The president says, as pace setters in democratic governance in Africa, his government is committed to sustain that, adding he will need the help of the chiefs to achieve this. The president also said there are 817 projects undertaken by the NPP government in the Bono region, with 418 completed, 399 ongoing. He's been assuring the chiefs that with 4 more for Nana as they want, he will do even more. He was speaking at the inauguration of the Bono Regional House of Chiefs in Sunyai. Precious Semevo is on a tour for JoyNews. He joins me with details and updates. Hello, Precious. What is happening in Domahinkro, where you are currently?
This is, as you rightly said, the president's first day of the 2-day tour of the Bono region started this morning, and having inaugurated the Bono Regional House of Peace, carving it out of the main Bono region. That paved the way for the tour to start, where the president said a lot of things to the chiefs and to assure them of what his government has in store for the people of the region if they are to trust him with another 4 more years. Now, in Domahinkro, Doma Central to be precise, the president, currently there is a debate ongoing at the Presbyterian Hospital in Doma, where the president is expected to cut a sod for the construction of an accident and emergency center for the hospital. And the debate is ongoing, and the chief of Domahinkro, Osajifo himself, is not around, but the chief who spoke on his behalf thanked the president for the many appointments, national appointments made with people from his traditional area, and he is so pleased with that and encouraged the president to do more for the people. Now, from here, the president will be moving to German South, where he will be inspecting Banfoa, Banofa, the Zera Adamsu road construction, what is ongoing in the German South. So the president will be there to inspect that. And he will also be paying a visit to one of the factories under the 1D1S initiative at Dinigini in Bekum, which is the Wedi Africa Tomato Process Factory, and then the agro farms before the president will end the first day of the tour. So as we speak, the president is yet to speak at the debate in his honor at the Presbyterian Hospital here in Domahinkro, where he's expected to cut short for the construction of the accident and emergency center for the hospital in Doma Central.
Looks like certainly a very busy day for you, Precious. Thank you for those updates. Precious Semevo is our correspondent following the president there here on Election Brief. So we'll move on from there. Now, the governing NPP says it is pushing to make Western Region its stronghold going into any major election. Since the inception of the Fourth Republic, the Western Region has been largely considered a swing region. But the party believes the creation of the Western North Region out of the existing Western Region would now make electorates in the Western Region its strong support base. One of the 17 seats in the Western Region, the NPP currently occupies 13. Well, out of those seats, they occupy 13. They, however, say in spite of occupying most of the seats, they will not be complacent going into the December polls.
In 2000, the MPP won majority of the seats in the Western region, and we won power. In 2008, we lost, and then Western region, and then we were out of power. 2012, again, we lost, and then we're out of power. 2016, won 8 more seats, and then we are in power now.
Right.
So
with
then
52% presidential.
Exactly. Yeah. So mostly people said it was a swing seat. There was 26 constituencies, and now, per the manifesto pledged by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, then the region has been demarcated, and now we have 17 in the Western region proper, and then I think 9 goes to the Western North. Yeah. So now we're starting the Western region proper as a stronghold of the MPP. Because we're going. It means
now Western region is going to be a stronghold of the MPP.
Yes, because even now we have 13 out of the 17 seats.
Yeah, but that's not guaranteed, because in 2016 the region decided to swing in favor of the MPP, which, if you look at the trend, they have been doing that in the past, like 2 decades. I mean, I should say from 2000 to 2020.
Okay, most of the, I'll tell you, Takrade, Second D, Afia, Kwesimintim, Hunter West, Shama, Iskaduketen, they've traditionally been MPP seats. So if I'm going into a contest with those seats in my pocket, then I'd say we're a stronghold. But however, we are not going to be complacent. If it's not just about winning more seats, it's about the presidential votes as well. So whilst we're thinking that yes, most of these constituencies are our bedrock, we need to actually appreciate in the presidential as well. That's why I'm saying we're not going to be complacent. But as we speak, we're looking at making the Western region a solid base for the new patriotic party. One, because most of Ghana's resources, the natural resources, emanate from the Western region. If it had been a federation, if it had practiced a federal system of governance, Western region would have been the richest. However, we operate the unitary system where everything comes to the center, and then it's actually shared amongst us.
Charles Bisil there speaking to my colleague Parker Kwesi Wilson. Running mate to NDC flag bearer Professor Nana Jenupu says government goofed in the procurement of past questions for final year senior high school students. According to her, to improve the performance of students, government must provide learning material, expand infrastructure at the schools, and ensure strict supervision. She explains that the vision of the NDC is to ensure that parents have confidence in public education. She's been speaking during a working visit to Imani, Africa.
We are not pretending to know it all. We are not pretending to see it all. People will see things you don't see. And as you say, those of us whose business it is to read and read. In fact, we are more interested in the views that oppose ours than in those you have, you know them already. But what somebody else is saying. So we are not afraid of being challenged. We think it's important. It's all about the excellence, it's all about the reputation, but you can also begin to grow it elsewhere. It didn't happen that way, and I keep saying that was. And we're not going to do it by buying past questions. No, I take serious exceptions to that. Okay, we're going to do it by building the children up, by supporting the teachers, by putting the methods there for strict supervision and accountability. Accountability goes everywhere. So by ensuring that the headmaster understands his role as a leader of the academic experience of the students. So if it's workshops they need, give it to them. We started. And that was when we brought in the private schools too.
Professor Jainano Pokwajuman there. Now, Vice President of Imani Africa, Kofi Bentel, also observes that the implementation of the free SHS policy is collapsing the economy.
We have really spent a lot of time on education. From 2008 and even before. We had an education desk before 2008. So if you remember when free SHS came up, we were the only group that robustly advanced arguments against it. And people misconstrue it to say we are against free SHS. We are for free basic education, however it's defined, up to secondary level. But that's a good idea does not implement itself. If you want free basic education reaching everybody, the construct, the structure, the arrangements, the container you put it in will determine whether that will work or not. And we thought what was done with free SHS was not going to be the best. And we are seeing it now. People say, well, it's been done and it's successful. You people were against it, etc. We cannot engage with everybody at that level. But the truth of the matter is that free SHS is killing this economy today.
Imani Africa's Vice President Kofi Bento. They're bringing us to an end here on Election Brief. My name is Gifty Andopia. I am back on your screens at 3 p.m. with The Pulse. You want to make a date.